I'm Kyle. I've always been the kind of person people don't take seriously. The kid who was always picked last, the one who never fit into the perfect mold everyone else seemed to have. I spent most of my life feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I didn't belong. But deep down, I knew something they didn't. I wasn't going to let that stop me. I've fought through every challenge, every setback, every laugh at my expense. And each time, I've gotten a little stronger, not just physically, but mentally. I'm not perfect, and I'll never be, but I've learned that perfection isn't the goal. The class had been going on for about an hour, and my stomach was a bundle of nerves. I could feel the eyes on me, some curious, others judgmental. I was used to it. People always seemed to think they had me figured out the second they saw me. And then, of course, came Ben. Ben had that look, the kind of guy who knew he was better than you, the type who'd never let you forget it. He was tall, muscular, with a swagger that screamed confidence. And when he noticed me sitting at the back, I knew exactly what was coming. He walked over with a smirk on his face, eyes scanning me from head to toe. "You sure you were in the right class?" Ben's voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "I mean, look at you. This is a personal trainer course, not a buffet line." The room fell silent. I could feel every pair of eyes turned toward me, and it hurt. I'd heard the same jokes, the same kind of ridicule for most of my life. It was easier to just shrink back and let it slide, but not today. I wasn't going to let him or anyone else make me feel small again. I stood up slowly, trying to keep my breathing steady. "I'm here to get certified," I said, my voice calm but firm. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me upset. Ben chuckled, clearly enjoying the moment. "Yeah, well, good luck with that. You're going to have a hard time teaching anyone anything when you can't even do a push-up." I could feel the heat rise in my cheeks, the familiar sting of embarrassment. But this time, something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to take it. I wasn't just some guy they could laugh at anymore. "Ben, you don't know anything about me," I said, locking eyes with him. "I'm not here to be your punching bag. I'm here to learn. I've worked my ass off to get here." Ben raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard by the sudden shift in my tone. "Yeah, okay, but how do you expect to teach anyone about fitness when you can't even do the basics yourself?" It was like a switch had been flipped in me. I knew I wasn't perfect. Hell, I knew my body wasn't what most people would consider trainer material. But I also knew that I had been working harder than anyone gave me credit for. Every day had been a battle against my body, against my mind, and against people like Ben who wanted to define me by my appearance. "You think it's that simple?" I asked, the words coming out sharper than I intended. "You think just because someone doesn't look a certain way, they don't have the right to help others? I've been through more than you'll ever understand, Ben. I've been fighting with my body every single day, and it's not about looking like you or being perfect. It's about knowing what it takes to push through when it feels impossible." Ben's smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "Whatever, man. I just think it's ridiculous. You're going to give fitness advice to someone when you can't even show them how to do the basics?" There was a brief silence as the rest of the class waited for my response. I could feel the tension building in the air, but I wasn't going to back down. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. "Let me tell you something," I said, stepping closer to him. "I may not look like I have it all together, but that's exactly why I'm here, to help people who feel like they're always on the outside looking in, people who don't fit the mold, who think they're not good enough. If I can make it this far, I know I can help them get there too." Ben opened his mouth, probably to argue more, but Coach Harris stepped in, his voice cutting through the tension. "All right, enough. We're here to learn, not to tear each other down. Kyle, Ben, let's focus on the task at hand." I could feel the weight of everyone's gaze on me, but this time, it didn't bother me. I had stood my ground. I didn't need to prove anything to Ben or to anyone else. As the class resumed, I could sense a shift in the room. The whispers had stopped. The laughter was gone. Everyone was focused. Ben still didn't get it, and maybe he never would, but I wasn't there for his approval. I was there for myself. The rest of the class went on in an uncomfortable silence after the confrontation. I could feel the eyes of my classmates on me, and the awkward tension lingered in the air. It was clear that no one had expected me to stand up to Ben like that. But honestly, I didn't care. I was still shaking a bit from the argument, but there was something different about how I felt, something empowering. As the class broke for lunch, I sat alone, picking at my food, lost in thought. I wasn't hungry, but eating was just a way to pass time, to do something while my mind raced. The adrenaline from the confrontation was still coursing through me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just crossed some kind of threshold. But just as I was lost in my own head, I heard footsteps approaching. It was Ben. "Hey," he said, his voice quieter than usual. He hesitated for a moment before sitting across from me, not sure how I'd react. I wanted to apologize for earlier. I was out of line." I looked up at him, surprised by the sudden shift in tone. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I had expected him to just move on or keep acting the same, but this was different. Ben wasn't acting like the arrogant jerk he had been before. "You don't have to apologize," I said, my voice a bit softer than I expected. "I get it. I've been there. It's easier to throw insults than to really look at what's going on beneath the surface." He nodded, looking down at his food for a second. I didn't know. You're right. I've been so caught up in trying to prove myself to everyone else, I didn't stop to think about how hard it must be for you to even be here. It's not just about the body, huh? It's about the fight." I stared at him for a moment, processing his words. This wasn't the Ben I had expected to see today. There was something real behind his eyes now, something that had shifted. It wasn't just an apology, it was an acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of my struggles. And that somehow made the whole class feel a little more bearable. "You're not the only one who's been trying to prove something," I said. "Everyone here is, but it's not about impressing anyone. It's about showing up, no matter how hard it gets." Ben smiled weakly, then let out a breath, as if something had lifted off his shoulders. "Yeah, I think I needed that wake-up call more than I realized." I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. We just sat in silence for a few moments, both of us deep in thought. The tension between us was gone. For the first time, I could see Ben for who he really was, someone who had his own battles. And maybe, just maybe, we weren't that different after all. A few weeks passed since that day. The atmosphere in the class had changed, at least between Ben and me. We were no longer at odds. Instead, we had become something like allies. Training together after class had become a regular thing. He was still better than me at some exercises, of course, but he didn't rub it in. Instead, he had asked me for advice about things I knew a lot more about, like nutrition or overcoming mental blocks. One evening, after a particularly grueling workout, we were sitting on the floor of the gym, sweaty and out of breath. Ben wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, looking at me like he was about to say something important. "Dude," he started, his tone more serious than usual, "I've been thinking, you've been working your ass off for so long, and sometimes I wonder why you're not seeing the results you want. It's not like you don't have the dedication. It's got to be something deeper than that." I blinked, not sure where he was going with this. "What do you mean?" Ben hesitated, looking at the floor. "It's just, I can see how hard you're pushing yourself, but you've never really talked about why. I mean, I know you want to help people, but what about you, man? What's your real goal?" For a moment, I didn't answer. The truth was, I hadn't really thought about it like that before. I had been so focused on helping others, on proving that I wasn't just the overweight kid who couldn't do anything, that I hadn't given myself the space to dream, to think about what I wanted out of all of this. "I guess," I began, slowly finding my words. "I guess I want to prove to myself that I'm capable of more. More than the kid who couldn't keep up. More than the guy everyone overlooked. I don't want to be just a trainer. I want to be someone who helps people see their own potential, even when they don't see it themselves. I guess I just want to be proud of who I am, finally." Ben sat there for a moment, quiet, letting my words sink in. Then he grinned, a real grin, not the sarcastic kind. "Man, that's something I can get behind. You're gonna crush it, and I'm here for that. We both got a lot to prove." As the weeks dragged on and the final exam loomed closer, the pressure began to build again. I found myself obsessing over every detail. My form, my explanations, my ability to help others understand the material. But it wasn't just about passing anymore. It was about owning this process, embracing the journey that had brought me to this point. The day before the exam, Coach Harris pulled me aside. Kyle, he said, his expression serious but warm, I've been watching you for a while, and I can see how hard you've been working. Not just in your fitness, but in your mindset. I've seen you grow in ways most people don't even realize. Tomorrow, just remember, this is about who you are. You've already proven yourself to me. Now prove it to yourself. I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my chest. This wasn't just a certification. It was a testament to everything I had fought for, to every time I had felt like quitting, but hadn't. The next day, as we all gathered for the exam, I wasn't nervous. I was focused. I had no idea what the outcome would be, but I knew one thing for sure to won. No matter what, I had already won. The day of the exam arrived. I woke up with a sense of calm that I hadn't felt before. For the first time, I wasn't just trying to survive the day. I was going to show everyone, and more importantly, myself, how far I had come. The nerves I used to feel were replaced with something stronger, more determined. As we walked into the gym that morning, the atmosphere felt different. The usual hum of nervous energy was gone. Today wasn't just about getting through the motions. It was about proving we were ready for this, ready to be personal trainers, ready to step into a role where we'd be responsible for other people's health and well-being. Coach Iris stood at the front of the room, clipboard in hand, his face a mixture of encouragement and focus. All right, everyone, he said, raising his voice. This is the day. You've worked hard for this, and now it's time to put everything you've learned into action. The exam today will test your knowledge, your physical abilities, and your ability to communicate and teach. You all know what's at stake. Let's make it count. I looked around the room, seeing the faces of my classmates, Ben, Emma, Jenna, and others who had been with me through this journey. Some looked calm, others were fidgeting, but I knew something they didn't. We had all struggled, but we had all fought through it. And now we were here. Ben caught my eye across the room, giving me a nod of acknowledgement. It was a silent signal. No more rivalry, just mutual respect. And that meant everything. The first part of the exam was practical, demonstrating different exercises and explaining them to the examiner. I was assigned to a station where I had to guide someone through a basic circuit of squats, push-ups, and planks. My partner was Emma, and despite everything that had happened before, we worked together seamlessly. I explained each movement in detail, making sure to adjust Emma's form when needed. Engage your core, I said as she went down into a squat, and make sure your knees don't extend past your toes. You are not just going down, you're pushing through your heels. She nodded, paying close attention. I felt a small sense of pride. The skills I had worked so hard to learn and master were coming together. This wasn't just a test of physical ability. It was a test of everything I had learned, everything I had worked for. When it was time for me to perform my own movements, squats, push-ups, and planks, I didn't hesitate. Sure, I wasn't perfect, but I was strong in my own way. My legs burned, my arms trembled, but I pushed through. I wasn't going to stop until the last rep. Coach Harris watched me closely, his eyes flicking from me to the clipboard, then back again. But I could see the faintest nod of approval on his face. After the practical portion, it was time for the written exam. This was the part that always made my heart race. It wasn't just about memorizing facts. It was about applying everything I had learned in real-world situations. But I had prepared for this. I had spent countless nights studying, going over nutrition plans, exercise protocols, injury prevention, and more. I wasn't going to let this test break me. I sat at my desk, pen in hand, as I looked at the first question. It was about devising a basic workout plan for a client who had just started training and was dealing with mild knee pain. I took a deep breath and began writing. As the test continued, I found myself getting into a flow. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't rushing. I was just in the moment. I knew the answers. I knew how to help people, how to listen to their needs, how to create a plan that was tailored to them. The knowledge was there. And for once, I wasn't worried about whether I was good enough. I knew I was. The exam was over, and we all filed out of the gym, the tension hanging thick in the air. It felt like a weight had been lifted from our shoulders, but also like something bigger was at stake. For the first time, I felt a sense of relief, but that didn't stop my heart from pounding in my chest. Ben and I walked out together, both of us silent for a moment. I was too lost in my own thoughts to say anything, but Ben broke the silence. You know, he said, looking at the ground, I was thinking about what you said to me that day, in front of everyone, about not quitting, about showing up for ourselves. You were right. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't. I'm still learning, but I think I finally understand what you meant. I glanced at him, surprised at the sincerity in his voice. Ben had always been so focused on impressing others, on proving that he was the best. But now he seemed different, more grounded, less concerned with being the strongest guy in the room, and more focused on becoming a better person. You've always been good at what you do, Ben, I said quietly. But what matters is what you do with that. It's not about the muscles or the perfect body. It's about helping people see that they can be better, even when it's hard. I think you get that now. He gave me a small smile, nodding. Yeah, I think I do. The next few days passed in a blur. We all waited for the results to come in. My mind kept racing. What if I didn't pass? What if I wasn't ready? But as the days wore on, I found a strange sense of peace. I had given everything I had. I couldn't change the outcome now. All I could do was trust in the work I had put in the person I had become. Then finally the day came. Coach Harris called us into the gym to announce the results. My heart pounded in my chest as he scanned the room, his eyes meeting each of us in turn. You all did an incredible job, Coach Harris said, his voice firm but proud. It's not just about passing the exam. It's about how you've grown, and I've seen each of you grow in ways that go beyond what's written on paper. I'm proud of you all. He paused, and for a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Congratulations, Coach Harris continued. You're all officially certified personal trainers. A cheer erupted in the room. I could hardly believe it. I had done it. I had crossed the finish line. And I wasn't just a certified trainer. I was someone who had earned this moment, someone who had fought tooth and nail to get here. Ben clapped me on the back, his grin wide. You did it, man. I knew you could. I smiled, feeling a wave of pride wash over me. We both did, Ben. And as I looked around the room at the faces of my classmates, I realized something. We had all been through our own struggles, our own battles. But now we were standing together, stronger than we had ever been. We had earned our place. We had proven that we were more than just what others thought of us. We were the trainers, and we were ready to help others become their best selves. As I stood there, surrounded by people who had once looked at me with doubt, I realized something important. This wasn't just about passing a test. This was about proving to myself and to everyone who had ever doubted me that I was capable of more. The journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to fight against your own doubts or push through a challenge that has seemed impossible? What kept you going? I'd love to hear your stories and experiences. And if you've ever had someone doubt your potential, how did you overcome it? Drop a comment below and let's share our journeys together. Remember, it's not about where we start. It's about how we rise after each fall. Let's keep pushing forward together. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I can't wait to share more of these stories with you. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself.